Okay, I have a question for you. Have you ever seen or heard a speaker get up on stage and talk about the immutable law of attitude, belief, and expectation? If you're unfamiliar, the law ostensibly says, to the degree to which we believe anything, it becomes our reality, even if it's incorrect. I'm betting that over the years you've probably seen speakers talk about this. Motivational speakers use it all the time in their motivational speech. But here's an even better question. When you heard it from any of the speakers, did any of them prove to you beyond doubt with historical fact that in fact this law is immutable? It's real, it's tangible, and it's something you can use for your benefit and the benefit of others. I'm betting nobody here has. I have some good news for you. Before this video is finished, I am going to prove to you beyond doubt that in fact this law is immutable. It is real. It is something that you can use for your benefit and the benefit of others. When I was a young man, I heard this law the first time, and being a positive guy, I believed it. Yeah, what I think I become, and that makes sense to me. But I'm sure, like you and many other people, just because I hear something, I don't quickly make it part of what my belief system is until I can prove it to myself. And over the years, I went looking for proof, and I never found any. Until one day, I was riding in my car, and I put in a cassette tape. Oh yeah, that's how far back I go, the cassette tapes. But it was Brian Tracy's tape series, The Psychology of Achievement, wherein he discussed this law. And he gave, for me, the first time ever, real, tangible proof. He told a story about this young man in the state of California who graduated from high school with straight A's. And as they did then, as they still do today, he wrote his SATs, his Scholastic Aptitude Test, and he happened to see his mark when it came back. It was a 98. And this surprised him because he thought it was his IQ. And to put that into perspective, we know in psychology that the average IQ in the street is about 100. But in order to get an undergraduate degree in college or university, it's best to have at least a 110 and hopefully a 115. So he was surprised that he only had a 98. Surprised, too, that he was approved to go to any of the colleges that he applied for. But as it is, he went to college, and at the end of the first semester, he was called in by the counselor who said, "Young man, I don't know what's going on." He said, "You graduated with straight A's." He said, "This is just one level higher." He says, "You're failing everything." He said, what's going on?" And the young man looked at him, he says, "Well, you can't blame me." He looked at him, he said, "Why not?" And he says, "Well, I'm not that smart." He said, "I only got a 98 IQ. He said, "Where did you get that idea?" He said, "Well, I saw my SATs. And the counselor laughed and he says, "Young man, you're under a terrible misunderstanding. That 98 is not an IQ. That's a percentile. What it really means is in the state of California, when you wrote with all the other students, you scored higher than 98% of them." Well, to the degree to which this young man took in this new information, which the story says he did, it changed his attitude. It changed his belief. It changed his expectation. And by default, it changed his activities. And in the end, he graduated with an undergraduate degree, straight A's. Nothing short of remarkable. Now, this for me was the first proof that I'd ever seen, and I started really getting interested into this law. And I thought, well, okay, well, that's Brian Tracy's research. Could I do my own research and find similar proof? And I also wonder, too, is this law limited to just an individual basis, or is it somewhat bigger than that? Well, I'm here today to tell you how shocked I was at how quickly not only could I find proof, but I found that it's not an individual basis. This law is in everything everybody around the world does. But I'm going to give you some proof right now that's going to take away any doubt. But before I do, I've always had this nagging thought. If this young man, I believe this story to be true, but if this young man is in the top 2% of the smartest kids in California, and he doesn't know the difference between a percentile and an IQ, do we have anything to worry about? You know, I'm just asking for a friend over here. But anyway, I digress. Here's my proof. The year was 1940, and if you know your history, you will know that was the beginning of the second year of the Second World War. The Americans and the Canadians still weren't even in the war yet. And if you know your history, you'll know that Hitler was invading Europe, and the British had to do something to stop it. So what they did was they took all their forces, everything they had, and they put them into the European theater to stop his advance. And as we know from historical fact, they were unsuccessful. Hitler pushed the British all the way through Europe, all the way through France, until he had their backs to the Channel, the English Channel, at Dunkirk. Now, we know this to be historically true. So now what we're going to do is step back a little bit and look at this through the eyes of the law of attitude, belief, and expectation. On this side of the Channel, to the degree to which Hitler believed he was about to annihilate the British forces and invade England, it affected his attitude, his belief, his expectations, and by default, his activities. What was he doing? He was putting people, places, and things together to affect this outcome, and he would have gotten it. At this side of the Channel, we had the British people. To the degree to which they believed that 340,000 of their fathers, their sons, their brothers, their comrades were going to be murdered, and Hitler was going to commit it, it affected their attitude, their belief, their expectation, and their activities. What were they doing? They were preparing for Hitler's invasion after he finished the armed forces. But stand back and look at this through the eyes of the law. On this side, Hitler going to win, would have. He would get what he believed he would get. On this side, going to lose, would have, because everything both of them were doing was to bring this into their realities. And it would have happened. So the law works. It's true. And it would have happened unless something happened to interfere with that outcome. Do you know what happened that changed all that? Winston Churchill happened. Winston Churchill sent a telegram to FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, in the States, wherein he wrote that later that day he was going to rise in the House and give a speech. He wanted FDR to know that the speech wasn't for the House, it was for the ears of Hitler. And as we know from history, he had written not one but two speeches. The one he didn't give was the one that said, "We're about to lose the war." But the one he did give is the one he now is so famously known for, because he rose in the House later that day, and in so many words he said, "He doesn't have us where he wants us. We have him where we want him. And regardless of what happens, we will fight them on the land, we will fight them on the sea, we will fight them in the air, we will fight them on the beaches, in the streets, and we shall never, never, never surrender." Well, let's step back again and look at this historical situation through the eyes of the law. To the degree on this side, to the degree to which Hitler took in this new information, it affected his attitude, his belief, his expectations, and as a result, his activities. What did he do? Well, he stopped advancing on the British, and he hesitated. He called all his generals in, and he said in so many words, "Hey, what's going on here? Well, I thought we had this guy. He's saying we're walking into a trap. What aren't you telling me?" And at the same time, on this side of the Channel, to the degree to which the British people took in this new information, which history shows they did, it changed their attitude, their belief, their expectation, and by default, their activities. What did they do? Well, they stopped preparing for defeat. And over the next 6 nights, under the cover of darkness, they came across the Channel in boats by the hundreds. And in 6 short nights, they liberated 340,000 of their fathers, their sons, their comrades. Nothing short of remarkable. But that's not what our focus is. Our focus is, let's go step back again and look at this through the eyes of the immutable law. Before Winston Churchill, going to win, would have, the law works. On this side, British, going to lose, would have. They both would have got what they expected because they were working towards it. After Winston Churchill, maybe not going to win, didn't. Going to win, did. The law holds true in both cases. It is immutable. What we believe and expect, we immutably work towards in our activities to bring it into our life. And this, for me, was just so enlightening because now I had proved it to myself that the law is real. And I thought about it for a few days, and then all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute. When Winston Churchill rose in the House, everything he said was not true. They were about to lose the war. And I thought about it, and then I had this big aha moment, because suddenly I realized that the highest achieving, highest income earning men and women around this world get up every day, just like the rest of us, but they get up every day with positive beliefs and expectations, which in the end affect their activities, often with absolutely no guarantees that says if you do this, you're going to be successful. But to the degree to which they could maintain positive beliefs and expectations meant that they would immutably move with their activities in a direction to higher and greater success. So I think what I've just said to you proves it. It is real. It's tangible. You could use it to your benefit. So in conclusion, I hope the takeaway for you is you now know that it is true. I proved it to you. You can use it. But the second and most important thing is I never want you to forget the name of the speaker who proved it to you for the first time. Just didn't talk about it in theory. He proved it to you with historical fact. My name is Paul Shearstone. Thank you.